Hi guys, I'm sorry about the delay. But nice to meet you. I'm Sivan Cohen. I'm the new Shlicha, and this is.
Hi, I'm Mushka.
And from Chabad. And today we're going to talk about Shmitta. So Shmitta is basically the sabbatical year. Okay. So basically, Shmitta is, as I said, it's the sabbatical year. So every 7 days, we have Shabbat. So the same things go for the land of Israel, and it's only a practice that we do only in Israel. So basically, they stop working the land in order to give the land to rest for all year. Shnat Shmita in Hebrew, it's meaning literally to a year of let go. And on this Rosh Hashanah that we celebrate on September, the Shemitah year started in Israel. And as I said, it's only relevant to the land of Israel. It's not something that we do outside of Israel. Yeah, so it's like exactly like in Shabbat that we need to rest every 7 days. So as I said, it's like you need to let the land rest for the seventh year. So according to the Bible, every 7 years it's Shnat Shmita, and you cannot work the land, and you cannot even benefit from anything. Like you cannot sell your product. You cannot invest in fertilizing it for the next years. You cannot benefit from anything right now in the land in the year of Shemitah. But you can pick up like everything that is growing naturally. You can pick it up and eat it. Okay. So they said like that, like the spiritual or religion aspect of it is that if you will let the land rest for 1 year, so God will be more generous to you and will give you extra for the next year. So the Law of Shemitah basically started after the second temple was collapsed, we say in English?
Built? Destroyed.
Destroyed, sorry. So the Mishnah, which is the book of law, basically, deal extensively with the Law of Shemitah. What does it mean? What do you do in practice? Like how does it's basically what is, we don't have a word for it in English, but what do you do? Like how do you practice that?
With the practical application.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So today in Israel, Shmitta, it's basically one of the laws in Israel. Like it's a government law that you have to follow if you are a farmer in the land of Israel. So first of all, I want to start in the beginning. Obviously, the land of Israel was always existed, but the Jewish people never lived there and they didn't live for a long period of time. After they had galut, how do you say galut in English?
Exile.
The exile. So not a lot of Jewish people lived in the land of Israel. So the law of Shemitah wasn't really relevant. But slowly, especially in the 19th century, a lot of Jewish people came back to the land of Israel. And even before the state of Israel was created, the law of Shemitah has to be kept. So we always had rabbanim in the land of Israel that like help and guide the farmer how to deal with the law of Shemitah in the land of Israel. And so basically it's also created a lot of problems because obviously Israel is not really rich and even during a regular year, they had problem like making money. So not working for all year, it's very problematic. And it requires a lot of solutions because we cannot not work the land for all year because we need money. So they came up with several solutions. It's called, one of them is Shmitta Goy. Goy in Hebrew means someone who is not Jewish. So what they did is the Jewish farmer basically went and sold the land to Arabs because they live a lot in Israel, and they give the full rights to the new owner, which is mostly Muslim or Christians. And that way they can enjoy still the product of the land, but it's not really there. But after 1948, when Israel was founded, basically the rabbis, like in Israel, okay, every city and every region in Israel have a rabbi, okay? It's like government or whatever, it's like we have a rabbi, and he is the one responsible for the kashrut in each area. And we have the main court of rabbis that bring like decide what are the law of kashrut. So they decided that in order to keep Shemitah in Israel, it's okay to still sell the land to Arabs in the year of Shemitah in order to enjoy the products of the land. But in like a few years ago, actually, there was a suggestion from one of the rabbis that to let each farmer, each rabbi, to decide for themselves, for their area, which if this law still makes the Shemitah kosher, because it's a little bit problematic. And basically the Ministry of Agriculture in Israel said that he went to the main court of Israel and they overturned this law because it was going to create a lot of problem and a lot of other problem, especially with money. So anyway, I want to continue, like they found the other solution. So we have the sixth crop, which is like basically in the 6th year before the Shemitah, they keep a lot of the goods that they grow in order to sell it on the 7th year. There is people who you can see here in the picture. It's basically a picture that say it's a farmer, and he said like this garden, this land is open for the public. You can pick up whatever you want, because they cannot like take anything from there because it's during the Shmitta. So whatever you want, you can take. It's for free. There is other solution that like some of them like basically import vegetables and fruit from other parts of the world, not from Israel. And also another very interesting solution was to, if I cannot work the land and grow in the land, they actually started to grow in hydroponic system, which means you don't need the ground. Like you don't need the land, you only need water. And also greenhouses, which is also can be a solution for that. Another interesting solution was the Arava. Arava is a part in the desert in Israel, in the Negev. which according to the Bible is not really part of Israel. So even though it's in the land of Israel right now, they say it's not a part of the Israel, the original Israel. So they grow there, even though it's the desert, some fruits and vegetable, mostly that, and they can grow it there and sell it to the rest of Israel. So yeah, very, very interesting to learn about it. And yeah, and there is a few solutions, as I said, like some of them by like, we also have farmers that like owns by Arab, like that they are Arabs, the Christian or Muslim, so we buy from them, and there is other thing. And the reason it's very, very, very important in Israel, it's because it's kashrut. So most of the supermarket in Israel, besides two big ones, have to be kosher. Otherwise, you cannot buy there, okay, in Israel. So in order to be a kosher supermarket, the Shmitta, it's part of the kashrut system in Israel. And if you don't buy kosher fruit and vegetables as a supermarket owner, like you can lose your certificate of kashrut. If you lose your certificate of kashrut, it can create a lot of economic problems for you, because people doesn't going to buy in your supermarket. So this is why it's super important for them to have the kashrut on the vegetables and fruit in the year of Shemitah, because again, it's also money, and obviously people from a religion aspect want to keep it kosher. So yeah. Yeah. What? Yeah. If you have any question.
That was a lot of information.
Yeah.
Well, I do have a question.
Yeah.
You say they sell the land to other non-Jews.
Mm-hmm.
Is that permanent where they keep the land, or do they rent it?
So this is the thing, you cannot rent it, because if I rent you something, it means that it's my property, but now you use it. They have to sell it completely. But it's weird because after the years is ended, like they buy it back. So it's not really.
What if they want to give it back?
So it's
So
like
this
Passover.
is a problem. Sorry?
Is it like Passover when people sell their chametz?
Yes, but in Passover, yeah, exactly. But in Passover, it's not your, you're not on that. And in Israel, there is a lot of, they know who to sell the land to. There is a few people that we already know. The government know, and the rabbis know them, like that they are not Jew, that they know that you can sell them to them, and they're not going to create problems after it.
That's good, because right now.
Okay, but I will add something to your question, which is a very smart question. Because there is a disagreement between the rabbis whether or not that's appropriate. It's called a heter machira. So there are certain circles that don't accept that, because when Hashem gave us, I'm going to rewind to the beginning of the Torah that we started a few weeks ago. The first pasuk in the Torah says, God created the world, right? In the beginning, there was nothing, and Hashem created dark and light, and then it goes through the whole creation, and then there's this seemingly history class with Adam and Noah and Abraham, and the whole point of Hashem creating this world is that we should get the Torah and that we should do mitzvahs, right? So it takes us about it's like we're 20% into the Torah, into the 5 books of the Torah, before God takes us out of Egypt to give us the Torah, right? Only in Exodus, right? The first book is Genesis, right? So if you ever looked at Rashi, the first Rashi in the whole Torah, it says, why did God start the Torah? Within the beginning, God created the world. Why didn't he start with Exodus or with the giving of the Torah, if that's the point, right? Well, so Rashi answers, and Rashi, he says that his commentary is for a 5-year-old. So the 5-year-old must have been way smarter than our 5-year-olds. Because, I don't know, it seems a little smarter than 5-year-old information. But in the first Rashi in the Torah, you can actually look at it. We might be able to pull it up if we want to. It says that the reason Hashem created this world, the reason Hashem started the Torah from there is not to teach us history, because the Torah is about teaching us lessons, right? The Torah has the same words as Horah, which is a teacher, teaching lessons. So in that Rashi, it says that because there's going to be, Hashem gave the land of Israel to Abraham, right? He promised him after his circumcision, he said, look, and this will all be your descendants. Do you know that part?
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So the reason it starts with that is because Hashem, in Rashi, it says that there's going to become a time that the nations of the world are going to come to the Jews and say, you guys stole our land.
Mm-hmm.
And the only answer we have is God gave it to us. Then Hashem decided and someone else should have it. And now it's ours back. Right? Hashem gave it back to us. So there is like Heter Mechira is not the end all.
Okay.
Not all opinions agree with that.
Yeah, this
I
is
don't.
why I said they have
I
a other solution, because the term mechira, which is basically to sell the land to the Arabs, is not
not the
really
best.
accepted in a different kind of
It's not across the board.
yeah, like some of the Jewish people doesn't really agree with it. Some of them like agree with it. Obviously, we also have the secular Jew that doesn't really care about it. So it's very problematic. But again, because it's the law, it's a status quo. We want to keep it like that. So the government of Israel actually also really invest a lot of money in farmers. Like it's part of the law. Like you can see here, they give almost $29 million a year in 2004 for farmers, because 2015 was the year of Shmitta, the one before this one. So they invest a lot of money. Also, farmer who decide to keep the Shmitta get also bonuses and support from the government in order not to get to a point that they are bankrupt. So yeah, it's but again, like it's very problematic. They also try to find other solutions. So people who keep Shmitta, the kosher of Shmitta, but by not with the term mechira, which is again selling to the non-Jew, is bringing fruit and vegetable from outside of Israel, which also cost money.
Mhm.
And I'm going to tell you something. In Israel, fruit and vegetables are tax-free. So when you import, it costs more money, and you really you have to pay tax, and then the Israel government take it to it like
They cover it.
they cover it in order for the people not to pay tax for it. Because it's a basic thing in Israel. Fruit and vegetable is a very big thing. It's like basic, like people buy a lot of it.
Like in America, pasta.
Or
Even
meat.
more. Yeah.
Meat.
So I want to let Mushka continue for here, like we living in the USA right now or outside of Israel, and what does it mean for us?
Okay, thank you. And now before we start, are there any other questions? From the computer screen, from the room? No hands going up?
No.
Okay, great. So because we're not farmers, we don't live in Israel yet. God willing, we will all get there very soon. What does it mean for me? I live in Omaha. I don't got no farm. What is it? Any ideas? No ideas?
Taking a year off from something.
Okay,
I mean, I know my late husband was a professor, and he took sabbaticals every 4 or 5 years.
he was firmer.
Well, let's just say he's from Israel, and he would go home
Great.
for months. Yeah.
By the way, sabbatical here is come from the Shmitta. This is why it's every 7 years. It's a sabbatical year. In Israel, you have the option, no matter what is your profession, to take a year off
Wow,
after 7 years. Yeah.
wow, that was.
But it doesn't line up with Shmita, or it's just
No,
personal Shmita?
when like if you start in 2 years from now to work, like the 7 years of your working, you can take it off.
That's another incentive. Okay. So, one thing that does apply to the Jews, out of the land of Israel is that all debts are, absolved before Shemitah.
Wow.
So, the rabbis noticed that, we're coming into the 5th year and Sivan's like, listen, Mushka, I need $1 million. And I'm like, I have $1 million to give you, but when are you gonna pay me back? And you know what, we're gonna hit Shmita, and then my funds go bazoo, and you're off with my $1 million. I'm happy for you, but a little less for me. So the rabbis came up with something called a pruzbul. A pruzbul is when I hand my document over to the Beth Din, the high court, and I say, listen, guys, this is now your debt. You loaned the money, and now you're responsible to get it paid back. And once you get it, you give it to me.
That'd be fun to do to a bank.
That would be fun. So they were the Jewish bankers, but that saved a lot of opportunity because now Sivan has the $1 million. If not, I probably would be hesitant to be like, we're at almost the end of the 5th year. I don't know. So that's one thing that now applies to us. So before Rosh Hashanah, I don't know if you noticed, there was a lot of opportunities to sign off your debts to the high court. So usually you'll do it with your, I know Rabbi Katzman was doing it and he'll sell it to a higher court. Kind of like the way we do for, like how we sell the chametz for Pesach. Let's say like my father, he doesn't sell it to an actual non-Jew, he'll sell it to a different rabbi who takes the pool of chametz and sells it and then buys it back. So that's one way that pruzbul applies, Shemitah applies to us in Omaha. Another way is when you'll be in Trader Joe's, and I think they're one of my favorite stores. You'll want to check the packages and see sometimes they'll bring different fruits in from Israel, maybe grapes, maybe mangoes, maybe different things. You just want to check the packaging because in general, do we support Israel? Absolutely. Do we want to buy everything that's made there? Yes. But during the year of Shemitah, I just have to double check and make sure that these grapes are certified for consumption. If I were living in Israel, that would apply. And also if I live in Omaha, I just want to make sure. And then another way is that Shemitah really, really, really encourages our faith in God. It pushes our limits a little. It kind of makes sure, in a few different aspects. First of all, if we're not working the land, what are we going to do next year? It's maybe not great for our anxiety, but if we try to trust in Hashem, we'll be able to garner that to help us. Even our debts, right? If we're trusting the high court to collect it for us, we're trusting them, right? There's some here, and then it's similar to what Sivan mentioned earlier about Shabbat, or the sabbatical that you mentioned, that every once in a while we gotta we're on the hamster wheel of life. And I wouldn't say every single day, but there are certain times, let's say like the Shema before bed. You could take a little accounting of what you did. The month of Elul before Rosh Hashanah, you want to do a little, okay, what worked, what didn't work, where can I improve? So too with, every Shabbat, you try to just do something small and, recalibrate yourself. And then finally with the year of Shemitah, we have a little sabbatical and we can all try to, maybe study something more or do something to realign ourselves with Hashem. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Now you have another chance to ask a question.
Yeah.
Or whisper something,
Yeah.
so everyone can hear.
To what extent, Sivan, does this, I understand there must be some, there's subsidies for the farmers, there's subsidies in terms of, paying for the taxes for the fruits and vegetables coming in. But does it still have some sort of an impact on the economy?
Yeah, because obviously it's not only the farmers, it's also his employee. He cannot like keep all year employee and pay him regularly without like having any income. So this is why like they get the extra money from the government to like, it's depend on how much you make in a regular year. So they get the same amount of money, a little bit less, but they, in order to keep going. And as I said, like sometimes it get to a very bad thing because thankfully it's very the ground is very healthy in Israel. So there is a lot of product. And what we see is like sometimes there is protest against it because sometimes farmers come with the all tons of oranges and stuff like that and protest, and basically it's like tons, like literally tons of food that like go wasted. And so it's also a problematic. So we want to say, let's sell it or to other country or stuff like that. And it's again, problem because you cannot benefit from selling it. So it has a lot of impact. And also it's created more deviation from the secular Jew to the one that like keep more the religion things, which is kashrut. So, because they see it as nonsense and they know it, so I don't know.
Does that apply to other industries?
If it's applied on other industry,
Like tech, you have an amazing tech industry.
yeah,
I dread to think of people taking Shmitta.
It's just the land.
Okay,
yeah.
Now, does it have an impact on the offers you normally see in supermarkets?
Yes, it's much more expensive. I actually spoke to my mom a few days ago and she told me she bought grapes and for like half a kilo, which is a pound approximately, for 60 shekels. 60 shekels is more than $18. It's approximately $18.
whoa. Ooh. Wow.
Or a little bit less, but yeah, no,
Yeah.
less.
I mean, what's the?
Shekel is 3 shekels. So yeah, approximately $18 for, so it's very, very expensive.
So the whole year is an expensive year for the normal family then?
Mhm.
Yes, and not only the 7th year, it's also the 8th, because we're still trying to catch our breath.
Yeah,
And the end of the 6th.
Right.
So it's a lot.
Now, I have another question. I'm seeing myself going shopping. In the supermarket, would I find a distinction between stuff that is imported and stuff that is grown in hothouses? Would I see that?
in the
mean, that's not
supermarket in Israel, you mean?
Yeah, Israel, when I,
yeah, you know,
like
yes.
tomatoes or so, would there be a sign grown in such and such a hothouse?
Yeah, I want to show
Oh,
you.
okay.
Yes, in Israel, in the supermarket, in order for people, again, because you can also do a mechira, which is selling the land to a not Jew. You can also import, and you can also grow in a
Hothouse.
yes, or hydroponic system. So people, again, some of them like accept the heter mechira, some of them accept only import food, vegetable. So in Israel, it's the law in a kosher supermarket to write on each thing. If I can find a picture, I will show you. To write on each thing if it's imported, if it's what kashrut is this, is it eter mechira, is it imported, is it from hydrophonic system? So that way people can choose according to their belief what they want to buy and what they eat in the year of Shemitah. Obviously, the prices are different.
Well, it's kind of like you'll see organic bananas or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, right.
So they'll have they'll specify what's what.
Yes, yes.
Over time, do you see less observance, or does it maintain itself over time? I mean, year after year after year, is there less observance of Shmitta, or is it stay pretty steady?
Well, because it's in the law in Israel, the year of Shemitah, it's not something that you can choose.
Oh,
So it's like, and again, even if you are a secular farmer, the vegetable and fruit that you grow, you want to sell it, right? And you sell it to a variety of people. You sell it to secular people, you sell it to Arabs, you sell it to Christian, you sell it to Jew, and some of their Jew are observant Jews. So for you, it's benefit to have kosher. That way you don't lose a big section of people that you sell to. And it's part of the law, and it's also they don't going to buy from you if you are not kosher. So you lost a lot of money that way or that way. So it's better to just keep it. And again, it's in the law, it's a status quo that we don't want to change. And for now, we have a term mechira, like I said in the ground, but again, some people doesn't like accept this kind of kashrut, so we still import from other countries. And also, it's extra expensive this time because we have Corona, so it's more difficult to import stuff from the outside, and yeah, so it's a little bit more problematic. Any other
You
question?
don't have the ships, the importing, and all the docks are clogged.
yeah.
Okay, this is the example. Let me see if I can. I want, yeah. Okay, let me share screen and I will show you. Okay. So you see this sign? Okay, this is like in a grocery store or supermarket. So the pink one, it means that it came from overseas. And the yellow one, it means that it was eter mechira, which means it was sold. And as you can see, there is differences in the price. And not on everything you have both of the options, but like only on the bell pepper you can see the one that was grown in Israel, but it's a little bit cheaper than the one was imported from the outside. So this is an example for like people can choose like what they want. It's kosher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
And the law only applies to Israel. It does not apply on the outside, not to the diaspora, so, okay,
The law of working the land.
yeah, the law working, the
Yeah.
land, yes. Okay,
If there's anyone on Zoom that has a question, you may just unmute yourself and go ahead and jump in.
Okay.
We're so clear.
Yeah.
So there are no questions.
You covered it all.
Okay, I hope it was interesting. I enjoy it. Oh, but you.
And Sivan, is the plan to have this the first Monday of every month from here out?
This is the plan, Mark.
Okay.
Every month.
It was an easy way to get the plug in.
I feel like in a TV show. Yeah.
It will always be here on the first Sunday, here in the center here.
Yes,
On Monday, on
Yeah,
Sunday.
every first Monday of the month,
and Monday,
right
yeah.
here. Okay, good.
or on Zoom if you prefer doing it on Zoom.
Well,
So December 6th is the next.
I don't think so.
My wife's birthday.
Well, we might have birthday cake.
Okay, if there's no other questions, I'm gonna go ahead and end the Zoom part of this.
okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us.